Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the podcast, The Endurance of Labor Laws. I'm your lovely host, Lesley Sullivan. Today is episode 209, and we are going to cover two different things. We kind of took a small break for a little bit, and we are jumping right back into the podcast. So the two things we're going to cover today, number one, the Colorado Workers for Innovations and New Solutions. It is a labor union, and especially for employees in Colorado. And I'm not a big fan of this one, and I will discuss why in just a moment. The second thing we're going to discuss, this is kind of a 2-for-1 special with this episode since we were off for several days here. The second one we are going to cover is the United States Secret Service Uniform Division. Very interesting there. But before I dive into all that, I want to give a big shout out to our listeners because, as usual, we love to see you here. We greatly appreciate you. Do check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Comment, whether good, bad, or ugly. Hopefully not ugly because it's not nice to be impolite, but we do extend an olive branch to people that disagree with us anyway. But a big shout out to Florida, California, New Jersey, New York, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Virginia, Mississippi, Illinois, Georgia, Indiana, Newfoundland, Labrador, and Texas. In terms of countries, the United States, Australia, Canada, the Russian Federation, and Iran. That's really cool. Love to see all of you guys there. So the first thing that we are going to discuss, and by the way, if you hear my washing machine, that is exactly what it is. So just FYI, be aware of that. Oklahoma has had some very much low temperatures. We've had an ice storm. So basically, because the temperature got really cold, I couldn't hardly do any laundry. And then also, I did not have, I had running water, but the water pressure was bad because I had no hot water. And then I had to get a new hot water tank, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened. So it just was kind of a slightly stressful week. But thanks be to God, things are better, and always looking forward to the future. But sometimes we have to take a break and address some serious things in our life, and having very little water and no hot water, and then having a ice storm is really, it's not always the easiest thing to deal with, but it is livable, it's doable, and you just look forward to the future. So that's how I view things here. So I do want to talk about the Colorado Workers for Innovations and New Solutions. And I wanted to dive back into labor unions because that was the initial purpose of this podcast. Is I got to looking at the episodes of my podcast, and I'm not being negative about my work, not by any means, but I just kind of felt like I'm getting off track in terms of topic, because I do like to discuss federal agencies and our federal government because they do very much directly impact our jobs, because the federal government, it very much tries to, it does two things. It intervenes, but it also interferes in the private sector. And so I want to make sure that we discuss labor unions as the initial topic, and then discuss federal agencies and things of that nature secondly, even though I am really loving learning about our federal government, the different federal agencies, because what's interesting, at least for me, I don't know if it's this way for you guys, you'll message me and let me know if you agree with this or if you have come across this as well. But the more I learn about our federal government and these different federal agencies, the more I understand the problems that the private sector has been having to deal with in terms of the federal government and the overreach and the strong arm of the government. Now, I am not against government. We do need a government in any country. We do need a federal government, but it needs to be limited and small. The problem that I am seeing is that the more we have a larger government, a larger federal government, the more it enables labor unions and trade unions to try and take over entire industries within the private sector. And the private sector does not belong to labor unions, and it does not belong to the federal government. So that's why I want to dive back into labor unions, and then just kind of a 2-for-1 special, discuss different federal agencies and things of that nature. And let me know what you guys think. We'd love to hear from you. But anyway, I'm going to be discussing Colorado here with this labor union. It's mostly for state workers that kind of pat themselves on the back, and they really shouldn't be doing that. And here's the thing. I'm looking at their website. It says, when state employees have a voice, Colorado wins. I find that to be really stupid because Colorado, I'm 39 years old. I'm not old, but I'm not like a teeny bopper, right? So I'm kind of like right there in the middle, but I'm not middle aged. Here's the thing. I remember way back in the day when I was a teeny bopper, my family and I, if we had the time, in either grade school grade school and middle school, every year we would go to Colorado in the winter to go snow skiing. And back in the day, it used to be cheap to live in Colorado. And it was fun, and, businesses would pop up and do really well, things of that nature. And then what's interesting is that the more California tanked in terms of its economy, and the more liberals and Democrats and progressives, because those are three separate things they're not the same. I want to be very clear here because I love my Democrat friends. I very much love them very much. They're very unique people, just like Republicans are very unique. All of us are unique in God's eyes, so I very much love my Democrat friends. Here's the thing, though. Not all Democrats are progressives, and not all progressives, are liberals. And hold on just a moment. I need to get a drink of water because the air has been so dry here. We've had really low temperatures, and it's been like obnoxiously cold. It's like I've been using so much lotion on my hands, they're still cracked. I'm like, where's my Vaseline? I'm like, this is ridiculous. Hold on just a moment. But anyway, and even my lips are cracked and chapped. I'm just like, I don't like that. But anyway, so here's the thing. I remember when Colorado was a cheap place to live, and I don't mean cheap negatively. I mean that it was a reasonable place to live in terms of earning a living. Like you could earn a living and afford a normal average home. And if you were going to build a super expensive home, it used to be really cheap to build like really beautiful snow cabins, out there in Colorado. For example, you could purchase property like, near Vail or Aspen or whatever the case may be. And it wasn't, Aspen I think has always kind of been a little expensive, but the others, not so much. Like Wolf Creek, Crested Butte, things of that nature. And it's just, the property was cheap, and if you wanted to build a luxurious cabin, you could, and it was reasonable. Here's the thing. The more people from California left California and went to Colorado, the more those idiots that left California, it's like they would infiltrate Colorado, jack up the real estate prices, they would jack up real estate tax. And Colorado has become a very liberal state, and that very much saddens me because it used to be Republican. And notice I said liberal, not even Democrat. Colorado has gotten nutty. During COVID-19, during that pandemic or whatever, there was, I know of at least one Christian ministry out in Colorado that was targeted by a crazy liberal, mayor or city manager, and maybe even the governor, and that they were forbidding them to meet up and practice their faith. And see, in the United States, we have freedom of religion and freedom, we are free to assemble. And so, Colorado targeted this one Christian ministry that I think is absolutely wonderful. And, I'm of the opinion that, COVID-19, I don't think it was appropriate for the federal government to say, oh, you can only have 10 people in the room. You can only have 15 people. You can only have 25 people. Here's the thing. More people have died from the flu than from COVID-19. But did the government, whether state or federal, ever limit people, how many people are in a room? No. Like, I know more, I know more people and know more bad situations that have happened to the flu, West Nile virus, Ebola. There was another one that was really bad. But my point is this, it's like, people freaked out over COVID-19. And I understand the seriousness to COVID-19. It's nothing to sneeze about or sneeze at. But here's the thing. Some of the most tyrannical states within the United States, they were tyrannical because they're being run by progressives. In California and Colorado, or I'd say Michigan as well, they treat their citizens like dirt. And it's like, wow. So it surprises me how many people still vote for Democrats post-COVID-19, considering what all their local and state government did to control people's lives and just over-control. Like the government in some of these states treats citizens of the United States like they're morons. And see, that's the problem with elitism. And that is very rampant in liberals. Democrats, I never thought Democrats were elitist until their party was taken over by liberals and progressives. I always thought that Democrats were, for the most part, nice. It's just that, we disagree on taxes and we disagree on taxes and jobs and certain things like that, oil and gas, but it was never something extremely divisive. Well, now that the Democratic Party has been hijacked by these crazy liberal nutbags, now they have these issues. And now they sound very elitist because now that's what they are. They are elitist. And see, that's the problem with elitists and labor unions and trade unions. They take over something that they did not even invent, and they don't even know how to run it well. That's the problem. So looking at, it's called coloradowins.org, and it says when state employees have a voice, Colorado wins. Here's the thing. The more the liberal and progressive agenda has taken over the state of Colorado, the less people have a voice. So for them to say that anyone has a voice, even state employees, that's a joke. Because there were many Christian churches that were targeted by the government in Colorado. It was not just the federal government, it was the state government. So here's the thing. Democrat Christians, it's not the same as liberal and progressives, because liberals and progressives, they're not, let me put it this way, I have yet to meet a liberal or a progressive that is actually Christian and that actually says they're Christian. A lot of them are atheists or agnostics, or they just have no kind of thinking at all until they get married. And then it's, now we believe in God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. But before that, it was, I'm in charge of everything and I'm God in my life. Well, that's a very communist, Marxist, fascist way of thinking. And that's why progressivism and liberalism is a problem. Being a Democrat is not a problem. Not at all. What sucks is that the Democratic Party has been taken over by people that don't hardly believe in God at all, and they shame and blame Christians, and then they did everything they could to shut down as many churches for an extended period of time like crazy. It was horrible. It was just terrible. I mean, Christians really suffered during COVID-19, not just because of COVID-19 itself, but because Christians were being targeted for wanting to, worship the one true God. How is that any different than Sharia law? It just makes no sense to me what some of these people think is appropriate. So going off of their website here, coloradowins.org, almost said .com, but it's a .org. It says Colorado Workers for Innovative and New Solutions, also known as WINS, is a union representing more than 24,000 state employees. So you'd be surprised how many state employees don't really care about other people, even though they claim to care about other people, but it's not what you think. A lot of union workers think their job is more important than everybody else's. That is a very selfish way of living. So a lot of these people are very selfish, and it's a shame. Because, there may be some things that they actually have a point, and they may actually care about some people, but you can't tell me they care about all people. Because when it comes down to it, they are only in it for themselves. Like whenever I look at their pictures, it reminds me of some of the teachers' unions, how nutty they are. It's just bizarre. Goes on to say, we work to improve quality of services, safety, pay, and benefits, working conditions, conflict resolution. That's bull. They start conflict, these labor unions. Staff attrition, and more to ensure an effective workplace to serve all Coloradans. Or Coloradans. How do you pronounce it? People that live in Colorado. Okay, here's the thing. State workers do not care about the workforce outside of the state. That's why they throw these hissy fits and demand more money to do the exact same job. See, here's the thing. That stuff doesn't fly in the private sector. It just doesn't. Because first of all, in the private sector, it's very clear that there is supply and demand. It's very clear in the private sector, you have accounts payable, accounts receivable, taxes, whether federal, state, local, county, whatever the case may be. Like there's more accountability in the private sector. Whereas in the public sector, which would include these state workers, because they work for the government, which in this case is the state of Colorado, they have no clue what their labor actually costs in terms of, I would say, what is equivalent to their job in the private sector. See, a lot of labor unions and union members, they just want a lot of money to do a job that almost anybody could do. Well, how is that any different than the United Auto Workers Union? That's a big problem. It's a tremendous problem. See, because here's the thing. It's very common for labor unions to inflate the cost of their labor. And here's the thing. When they do that, they pass that cost on to basically the taxpayer. Whether it's the taxpayer of that particular state, or maybe at a federal level, or maybe the entire United States. And here's why. For example, with the United Auto Workers Union, they did everything they could to try and pass the cost of their cushy benefits, which were not reasonable, they were not realistic, they were super expensive, and they were ridiculous. They did everything they could to pass the cost of what they wanted and their benefits on to the consumer, which is why some of these vehicles were so expensive to purchase. Well, here's the thing. Here you have state workers that, in order for them to get paid more money, the state of Colorado is going to have to collect more in taxes. Look how expensive it already is to live in Colorado. And the reason why it's like that is because so many people abandoned ship in California, that they were basically rats leaving a sinking ship. They didn't stick around to actually help the state of California. They didn't stick around to correct the issues. They didn't stick around to correct the mess that they made as voters. No, they abandoned ship and went to Colorado and jacked up the real estate tax. They jacked up all these taxes, and now it's not really affordable for regular, everyday people to live in Colorado. Now, across the state of Colorado, almost every house or piece of property costs as much as like what you would expect to pay to buy into like a resort or something. Or to build a luxury cabin to go snow skiing or something, which is ridiculous. Like, how are average everyday people supposed to be able to afford to live somewhere if you have these stupid liberal Democrats, screwing up California, which California is bankrupt. It's stupid. I mean, Hollywood is a problem out there. A lot of these actors and actresses, they have caused a lot of these issues. Big time. It's like the more money they make, the stupider they are. I just don't understand it. And not everybody that's rich and lives in Hollywood is a moron. I'm not saying that at all. There are some very smart people out there, but here's the thing. They are few and far between. Because the majority of people that work in Hollywood and live out there are idiots and morons. They do not understand currency. They do not understand our banking system. They do not understand Wall Street. They do not understand supply and demand. And they do not understand gross domestic product. Like they don't understand GDP. So if they don't understand just basic math and financial, I guess, information like that, which that's what it is, it's basic, why would anybody take their advice on anything? It just makes no sense to me. So basically what happened was, you had these morons and these idiots that ruined California. They left because they couldn't afford to live there, even though they ruined it. They left and went to Colorado, one of many states, and then they ruined Colorado. And so that's why you have these state workers that think that they are the be-all, end-all, they're all smiles and everything, but yet, let me tell you something, contracts for state workers like Colorado greatly impacts everybody in that state because it is taken from your taxes. So basically, these state workers, they're saying, give me more money, I deserve it. Let me tell you something, no you don't. No you don't. Here's the thing, a lot of these workers, their jobs, they are typically overpaid. And the reason why they're overpaid is because they are union members. That's the problem with this. They do not understand what things actually cost. It's like they live in either La La Land or they don't live in what I call Realville. They live in Fantasyland. I mean, who doesn't want to make more money? I mean, making more money is a wonderful thing, but you have to earn it. You have to earn it. You don't just get more money because you whine and squeal like a pig. I mean, even warthogs can do that, and look how ugly and hideous they are. I mean, yes, they are an animal, and some of them are at the zoo, but I mean, let's call a spade here. Labor unions they are typical for playing their violin and then saying, oh, well, the reason why we deserve this raise is because we care about everybody, and here's where the lie is. Okay, so the last sentence on this particular segment on the webpage says, we work to improve quality of services. That's bull. Safety, pay and benefits, they do that, but for themselves. Working conditions, they do that for themselves, not others. Conflict resolution, they cause conflicts because of the labor union. Staff attrition, and more to ensure an effective workforce to serve all people that live in Colorado. The other part on here on their website says, from snowplow drivers to veterans homes, nurses, state employees perform critical jobs that keep Coloradians safe and healthy. Really, if they really believe that, then they would not be greatly inflating the cost of their labor. Because if you greatly inflate the cost of your labor, then all those people we just mentioned, snowplow drivers, veterans, nurses, state employees, veterans and veterans homes and nurses, basically, if you raise the rate of state employees and you overinflate their labor, then it actually makes it more difficult for veterans and nurses and pretty much anybody else that's not a state employee. And by the way, snowplow drivers, the more that the state inflates the wages of their workers, especially unionized workers, the more money is taken out of the check for a snowplow driver, a veteran, a nurse, a waiter, a waitress, whatever the case may be. So it's actually a punishment to the citizens of Colorado. What these workers don't realize, these state employees don't realize, is that they are causing and helping to cause inflation within their state. Because they think they're owed it and they deserve it. The citizens of Colorado deserve a lot better than this arrogance. Colorado used to be a beautiful, wonderful state, not only because of the terrain, the mountains and things of that nature, but because of the people that live there. Now, because more people from California live there, it's going down the septic tank. I was going to use another word, but I don't want to be vulgar. Colorado is not what it used to be. And the state of Colorado has targeted Christians. What does that tell you? I mean, seriously, folks, this is so ridiculous. It goes on to say, now we're campaigning for our biggest victory yet, Step increases to improve recruitment and retention in state jobs. Then it says state employees make Colorado run. Well, they probably make people run for the hills because the cost of living out there is so ridiculous. It used to not be like that. So then it says, hold politicians accountable, join the political team. Okay, well, here's the thing. Here's the lie of labor unions and trade unions and these organizations. They say they want to hold politicians accountable. That's a lie, straight out of the depths of hell. What they really want to do is not have Republicans ever get into office because they want more of your money. Whether it is a labor union in the private sector or a labor union at a state or federal level. Because they know that if Republicans are elected, the gravy train is over. Because Republicans are not for legalized thievery. Whereas these people are. Now here's the thing. When you legalize thievery, it punishes your community. It doesn't help your community. It actually makes your community a much more difficult place to live because more people have less money that they're bringing home from their, from their paycheck, from their job. Because, more and more of their paycheck is going towards somebody else. Is that being a part of a good team? No. It's basically having a fat kid on the team that all he ever does is eat pizza and he eats everybody else's food and then complains when they don't win the championship. It's like, okay, if you're a fat slob, you're not going to be able to run down the soccer field. It's the same thing here. When you have labor unions and trade unions that are fat slobs feeding at the trough of someone else's paycheck and tax dollars, of course they're not going to get a lot done. But they love to take pictures, have parades, have a little Instagram moment. The proof is in the pudding, okay? Look at the financial statements. Look at how Colorado is not being run very well. I think, to me, it's worse to be targeting Christians on this. I mean, we already knew the taxes were bad, but, then when COVID-19 happened, I think it showed the true colors of some of the elected officials in Colorado. They hate Christians. And they used COVID-19 to try and shut down Christian communities. You can't do that. That goes against federal law. Christians, actually any religion, as long as it's not like a crazy cult that's not hurting anyone technically, basically you have a right to assemble. Duh. But see, here's the thing. A lot of these labor unions, they think because they are unionized, they are above the law. That's a problem. A lot of these people think just like dirty cops. They don't ever want to get caught, and they don't want to be held accountable. It is a problem, and it's very sad because Colorado used to not be like that. It used to not be like that, and I know from personal experience. I know, from being a little kid and going to Crested Butte, Colorado, and we went to Wolf Creek a couple times. It wasn't super expensive to be in Colorado. I remember that. Because I remember thinking as a little kid, hey, when I get older, I want to live out here. It's reasonable. It's similar to Oklahoma in terms of pricing and things like that. It's just that, now I can really be near the mountains. Well, these Democrats that left California, these dirty rats, they totally screwed over Colorado on this. And what's sad is that a lot of the property out in Colorado is super expensive, but most of the jobs don't pay that well. That is not the fault of capitalism, because if anything, if your property is so expensive that your job cannot cover the cost of your home, that means you don't have capitalism. That means you have communism or socialism. But labor unions and trade unions, they like to make it seem like they've got all the answers. No, they've actually got all the problems. They just want to spread it around and make it seem like they know what they're doing when they don't. So here are some stories in regards to, they're talking about fighting for better pay, supposedly. It says, this first quote, it says, step raises represents a commitment from the state to take care of those who made the commitment to take care of the public. Basically pat themselves on the back. We deserve a living wage to provide for our loved ones. Well, doesn't everybody else in the state of Colorado? See, that is a state worker saying that. I'm not going to say their name or their department, but that is a state employee of Colorado. That right there tells me they think their family is more important than anybody else's family. That's not true. See, here's the thing. When you have capitalism and you have democracy, you have more freedom and you have better wages. But whenever you have these stupid Democrats that get into office and they raise all these taxes and then they wonder why, hey, the pay isn't good, it's like, okay, genius, when you stifle the private sector, it affects the public sector. Just because you want more money, that doesn't mean that you're going to get more money. So here's a second quote from a state worker. They say, we need to bring back step raises to show our current state employees that have given years of their lives to public service in Colorado that we value their work and to help recruit and retain newer employees. We are so tired of being short-staffed and underpaid. Here's the thing. When you have inflation like this, everybody's underpaid. It's not just you little state worker. See, here's the thing. This state worker thinks that the longer you work somewhere, you should just automatically make more money because, oh, you dedicated your life. Oh, you really did what nobody else was willing to do. Oh, give me a break. Does your hand hurt yet from patting yourself on the back all day from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then you get way better health care benefits than the entire state of Colorado? I mean, seriously, this is the arrogance and pompousness of this. The reason why their wages are low is because their state is screwed up. That is why. Okay, so here's another one. It says, this is another quote from a state employee, a state worker. It says, a step scale that rewards years of service is important to me because I want to ensure that the state of Colorado is a model employer that can remain competitive in hiring the best talent to serve the public, as well as recognize the hard work that employees are asked to do. Here's the thing. Just because you work somewhere a long time, that doesn't mean that you did a good job. And that doesn't mean that you actually learned a lot and that you're actually more valuable. See, here's the thing. What these employees don't understand, and I'm not surprised they don't understand because they're state workers and they are involved in this labor union. God bless them. I hope and pray they wake up to this, to their stupidity. Here's the thing. They want more money. Okay, get a better job. State jobs are not where you make bank. Federal jobs, unless you're a bureaucrat or unless you are appointed to a position, is not where you are going to make a lot of money. See, here's the thing. They pat themselves on the back for working for the state. They go, well, I serve the public, so I should make more money. The longer I'm here, the more money I should make. Really? Really? Again, does your hand hurt from patting yourself on the back? This is the arrogance of state employees. See, here's the thing. They don't understand economics. They don't understand employment. They don't understand what labor actually costs. Here's the thing. Just because someone works for the state 20, 30 years, that doesn't mean that they should automatically get a raise every year. I think it should be dependent upon your skills, your talents, what kind of work you did. And I think, most of the time when people get a raise, it's not because, you should give me a raise because I stayed. I'm doing the exact same thing I was doing 3 years ago. But, you should pay me. You should pay me more money. Because I chose to stay. I could have left. Is it making sense as to why what they're saying is so screwed up? And again, I understand that they want to make more money, but they're going about the wrong way. Here's how they can make more money. Vote Republican in everything, lower taxes, and the state will bring in more tax revenue. Why? Because when you lower taxes, people actually spend more money. It's like sales tax. But see, here's the thing. These three idiots They're morons. I have no doubt they're probably Democrats, and they think that, the state should collect more money. It's like, here's the thing. When you raise taxes, you actually hinder people from being able to buy what they need. If you hinder someone from buying what they need, doesn't that say you don't care about the public? Doesn't that say you don't care about who you're serving? See, that's the hypocrisy of their quotes here. And again, they may mean well, they may be really good people, but here's the thing. They do not understand currency. They do not understand capitalism. They do not understand democracy. All they know is what they see in their tiny little world. I have a state job and I should make more money. Good luck with that. And here's the thing. They are probably going to convince a lot of people that they should get a raise no matter what. Here's the thing. What if they suck at their job? What if they're causing a problem in the workplace year after year? Here's the thing. Unions get in the way of firing bad people. So is it appropriate to pay bad people more money? Because unions get in the way all the time of firing bad people, and unions actually prevent good people from being hired, and unions also get in the way of keeping good people, because good people don't work for bad unions. That's the thing. Now, do those three people that I just read their quotes, would they agree with what I'm saying? No, not at all. Not at all. The reason why is because they're socialist. They think they have all the answers because they are in a union and they work for the state. When they don't have the first clue what their state is going through, what the average family makes, what the average family should be making, and also what the average family needs help with. And I say average because, it's really a spectrum. It's not just the poor that need help. There's middle class people that need help, and there's rich people that need help. And yes, I said rich people. And let me say this. If you were rich, would you really want to live in Colorado and pay high taxes and then have to deal with a stupid state union that thinks that they should take even more of your money? No. And here's another thing. I think it's the state of Colorado that had a problem with gay couples going to like a bakery or something, and then they got that bakery in trouble at like a federal level. If you own a place of business, you have every right to refuse someone's service. You have every right. But see, here's the thing. States like Colorado has become so crazy liberal that it just openly embraces the alphabet people agenda, the LGBTQ community, whatever. That is disturbing. Because the LGBTQ community, especially homosexual men, they want to legalize lowering the age of consent to have sex with minors, little boys. The state of Colorado agrees with them on this. Colorado used to never think that way. See, this is the problem when you have mass influx of people from one state to another. There are so many people, and still people from California are leaving and moving to other states, and I'm like, you know what? It's disturbing. See, because here's the thing. I'm from Oklahoma, and yes, I love my state, but I don't actually like where I live. I have never liked living in Oklahoma for many reasons. Number one, it's an at-will state. Number two, the weather. I don't like this weather. I never have and never will. The only season I like is fall and maybe spring. Pretty much nothing else I like. I love our national parks, our state parks, I should say. And there's some things that I like, but there's so many other places I would rather live. But see, here's the thing. While I'm living here, I'm choosing to do good. And I know that if Oklahoma really needed my help, I would stay and help. But our state is not screwed up like California. But it will get screwed up the more people from California move here. And I have seen some California license plates here. I'm like, wow, these Californians, they're in for a big shock. Because I don't even know if we have abortion clinics anymore. I just don't know. And we have a Republican governor. I mean, we are predominantly a Republican state. And we are in the Bible Belt. Like, we've got churches all over the place. You know what's interesting is that I think one of the main differences between California and Oklahoma is that Oklahoma, we have churches and fast food restaurants just littered everywhere all over the state. California, they have LGBTQ communities littered everywhere. They have gay bars everywhere. And see what else? Oh, they have inclusiveness policies everywhere. But yet they don't have a clue of how to protect children. They don't understand that it is the responsibility of anyone over the age of 18, which is an adult. It is the responsibility of all adults to protect minors. And if you think the LGBTQ community is just perfect and flawless and, they're so perfect, they can never do anything wrong and there's nothing wrong with their policies, you are sick and grotesque. Even if you're not gay, even if you're not a homosexual, like, how can you be for some of the things that they want to do? Like, there's so much, we should probably do an episode on the LGBTQ community and really discuss what they want to do to people. Specifically minors. Here's the thing. What kind of adult, whether male or female, gay, straight, or sexually confused, whatever the case may be, or even transgender adult, what kind of an adult would be okay with a child being, I would say, sterilized and having their gender changed, at least on the outside? Because, what a lot of these young people, I don't think they're told this, is that when you change sexes, you're sterilizing yourself. Because, like, for example, when a man gets sexually transitioned into a woman, they're not given eggs, people. Eggs are given to females by God. So when these transgender men, when they become women, supposedly, at least on the outside, they can't reproduce. And, unless they cut off their sac or whatever and they have no sperm. But, just because there is a surgery that can take a man's penis and his ball sac and invert it into the cavity, the lower pelvic cavity, and try and make a vagina, there's no uterus, there's no ovaries, there's no fallopian tubes. Like, they cannot sexually reproduce anymore. The only way they could is if they kept their male genitalia, which is sickly and sadly what is happening. It's like they've got breasts on top and a penis on bottom. Like, that is so, wow. It's disgusting to me. It's grotesque. That is a sick person. They are mentally ill. And see, here's the thing. What kind of an adult doesn't tell a child, hey, you need to wait till you are at least age 18 before you transition into the opposite sex. You need to give your body a chance to grow into itself, basically. You need to give yourself a chance to grow up. See, here's another thing they don't tell them. The frontal lobe of a person is not fully developed technically until age 25. And here we are, with children getting sexual reassignment surgeries. And, some of them have not even hit puberty. I can think of a couple people from high school that they were kind of sexually curious, but they didn't transition their sex. It was just, this is in Oklahoma, I'm saying this happened. We knew in high school and middle school that, these people I'm thinking of, these few individuals, and they were few. It was not many. It was few, okay? We knew that they just needed to discover themselves, that's all. Give them a chance to grow up. Like, even we knew that. Like, we knew as young people and as minors that we were just that. We're minors and we're not adults yet. So why would you do anything to your body as a child or a minor? These people, they need to wait till they are at least an adult. Because that is an adult decision. That's another reason why I don't agree with these really sick and disturbing parents that they force some of their children to change sexes. Oh, we want a son, but we were given a girl. Well, let's just change her sex. Does anybody care about what the child wants? I mean, seriously. Give these kids a chance to grow up to who God wants them to be. And here's the thing. God knows that, there are some people, and many people actually have sexual questions. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. What I do think is a shame and is horrible is to enable the mentally ill to do really bad things to their body that, for the most part, are not reversible. There's an actress, I can't remember her name. She's probably in her mid-20s now, if I had to guess, maybe late 20s. Well, she transitioned to a guy. She actually had her breast cut off, and she was a beautiful actress. I was shocked by this. Her breasts were cut off, and then she had whatever done down there. That is so sick and shocking to me. Like, I couldn't even continue to read the story or watch a video about her. See, because there's a thing. She is still a female. DNA-wise, she is a female. That's just how she was born. There's nothing wrong with being female, just like there's nothing wrong with being male. Here's the thing. If someone's growing up a boy and they feel like a girl, they need to get help. If someone's, a girl and they feel like a boy growing up, they need to get help. There's nothing wrong with getting help. There may be some sort of dysfunction at a metabolic level. See, what people don't realize is that there are so many things that are metabolized in our body, and there's so many things that happen, whether it's hormones or endocrine system, all these things matter, like even your thyroid. And then, for example, I think it's your hippocampus and other things of that nature. They might just have a simple chemical imbalance in terms of like their blood work or something. But see, here we have so many parents, especially in Colorado, because it's like crazy liberal and progressive. Instead of looking at it from a medical point of view, they look at sexuality from a political point of view. Well, who do you feel like today? Or they look at it from a social point of view. It's not what you feel like, okay? It's what you are. And if what you feel like doesn't match what you are, you need to go see someone. If you're a guy and, you're kind of like not feeling masculine, you might have low T. There are actually many boy teenagers that have low T. That doesn't mean they're gay. That doesn't mean they need to become a girl. It means they need testosterone supplements or they need injections or whatever. And it might be temporary, it might be permanent, whatever the case may be, but they need to see a medical doctor that does not go along, with some political agenda about trying to decide what pronouns people should be called. See, here's the thing. Colorado goes along with some of this stuff, and it is sickening. And here's the thing. Colorado used to be a Christian state. It used to be. And you know what? It's not so much anymore. I mean, they're targeting Christian communities out there. And they were absolutely hateful to anyone that wanted to preach the gospel during COVID-19. Well, gee, who needs the gospel during a pandemic? Everybody. Everybody. I guarantee you, there were more people praying during COVID-19. Probably not that many people have been praying since 9/11. So here's the thing. If something really tragic and really bad is happening in the nation, such as COVID-19, why on earth would a state or the state government go after Christian churches and Christian ministries? They didn't go after bars. Like there was an equality. It was so one-sided. It's like, okay, if you're going to shut down churches, then you've got to shut down everything else. Because if you're saying that we can't meet together, then how can anybody else meet together? See, here's the thing. That's the disconnect between the government and its people, and that is exactly what is happening in Colorado. And it's been going on a while, and it's just one of those things like, yes, people can make more money, but that doesn't mean they should make more money. I remember this girl I went to school with, and I'm pretty sure she can't stand me now, but this was several years ago on Facebook. She was complaining about how teachers don't make enough money, and my first and immediate response was, well, get a different job. Oh, she was pissed. I think she ended up blocking me or something. She got so angry at me, and we used to be really close. But she became a teacher, and all she did was play her violin. Like, I guess she's expecting to make what someone in IT and I guess she expected to make what an engineer makes or something. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. If teachers, she wouldn't listen to me. And I'm telling you the exact same thing. If you want to make more money and you work any kind of public job, okay, even a federal job, you need to lower taxes so that people have more money in their bank account and in their pocket, because the less money they have in their bank account or pocket, the less they're going to spend at the store or the mall, whatever the case may be. Like, think about it. You see, here's the thing. A lot of teachers are Democrat because they're in a union. And they're kind of forced to be in a union, which is sad. And I'm just like, wow, so someone may be a Republican when they first join the teachers union, but eventually a lot of them go Democrat because they're being brainwashed that their job is special and more important than everybody else's. And it's like, no, it's not. Congratulations, you're a teacher and that's what you want to do, but your job is not more important than anybody else's. It's just like how, the job of a doctor is not more important than a teacher's job. Well, it goes both ways. But that doesn't mean that everybody's going to be making $150K every year. You have to earn it. It's not automatic. Like, for example, whenever these medical students, whenever they graduate from medical school, they don't all make $150K immediately right out the gate. Like, just for some stupid reason, state workers do not understand what it means to actually have a job and to earn a living. They don't understand it, and I don't get why. Because, like, for example, the girl I went to school with, and I grew up with her, I think I remember being in school with her from 4th grade until 12th grade, because I think she relocated to Oklahoma, or at least to our hometown or whatever. And she was a normal kid until she became a teacher. She was a normal person until she became a teacher. And then she turned into a crazy liberal Democrat nutbag, just like, wow. And as far as I know, she's married, and I'm like, wow, I wonder what her husband thinks about how she spends money. Because I guarantee you, she does not understand currency, and so that means that she's going to love other people's money. And here's the thing, that's the root of all evil. Money is not the root of all evil, it's the love of money. In a lot of these labor unions, they love money, particularly other people's money, and that's very sad. But moving on, again, this is a 2-for-1 special, and let me get another drink of water, so hold on just a moment. Okay. What's funny, one of the nice things about it being freezing cold is that your water is already cold when you drink it, so it's not like you have to put any ice in it because it's so frigid. So anyway, prayers that we have warmer weather and we can have palm trees here in Oklahoma. Like, I would love it if Oklahoma started looking like Miami or just Florida in general. I would love that. But anyway, so this 2-for-1 special, we're going to also talk about the United States Secret Service Uniform Division. This is a federal law enforcement within an agency. So their common name is the Secret Service Uniformed Division. Big old long abbreviation, USSSUD. This particular name, the United States Secret Service Uniform Division, was formed in 1977, but their history goes further back. It's one of those things where we've seen in times past with these federal agencies and things of this nature that they actually go back quite a ways, but it's just that the name has changed over the years because their job has changed over the years. and also basically their jurisdiction or their responsibilities and things of that nature. So the preceding agency was the White House Police Force. Their jurisdiction is in the United States. This is a federal agency. It is federal law enforcement. They are headquartered in Washington, D.C. They have a little over 1,300 officers. They do have agency executives. I'm pretty sure they're probably appointed. And then their parent agency is the United States Secret Service. So a little bit of history here. It says United States Secret Service Uniform Division is the security police force of the United States Secret Service, similar to the United States Capitol Police or DHS Federal Protective Service. It is in charge of protecting the physical White House grounds and foreign diplomatic missions in the District of Columbia. Established in 1922 as the White House Police, this organization was fully integrated into the Secret Service in 1930, so that's pre-World War II. In 1970, the protection of foreign diplomatic missions was added to the force's responsibilities, and its name was changed to the Executive Protective Service. The name United States Secret Service Uniform Division was adopted in 1977, so things change as years go by. With more than 1,300 officers as of 2010, it's probably even more than that now because this is a little bit outdated. The Uniform Division is responsible for the security at the White House complex, the Vice President's residence, the Department of the Treasury as part of the White House complex, and foreign diplomatic missions in the District of Columbia. Uniformed division officers carry out their protective responsibilities through a network of fixed security posts, foot, bicycle, vehicle, and motorcycle patrols. In terms of the organization, it says the Uniform Division has 3 branches: the White House branch, the Foreign Missions branch, and the Naval Observatory branch. Together they provide protection for the following: the President, Vice President, and their immediate families, presidential candidates, the White House complex, the Vice President's residence, the main Treasury Department building and its annex facility, and foreign diplomatic missions in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Officers are responsible for providing additional support to the Secret Service's protective mission through the following special support groups. So these are groups, additional groups within this group, is basically what it's saying. So we have the Counter Sniper Team. It says created in 1971. The Counter Sniper Team's purpose is to provide specialized protective support to defend against long-range threats to Secret Service protectees. They have a K-9 explosives detection unit. Obviously, the job or the title explains itself, but this division was created in 1976, so it goes back quite a ways. Then we have the Emergency Response Team. This one was formed in 1992, and their primary mission is to provide tactical response to unlawful intrusions and other protective challenges related to the White House and its ground. So then we're talking about, let's see here, the Uniform Division. Oh, they have different ranks. So I'm skimming through sentences here because I don't want to make this a super long podcast episode. But they do have different division ranks. So they have a chief, assistant chief, deputy chief, inspector, captain, lieutenant, sergeant, and officer. They do, of course, carry weapons. I'm not going to go through all the different weapons that they carry, but I will say this. In regards to any type of law enforcement, I think that they need to be very careful about when they're tasing people because there are many people out there that cannot afford to get tased because they have heart conditions. And there have been instances where people have died from being tased. I was going to say teased. Tased. Excuse my language. And I just wish that the police were not so quick to tase people. An example of this was when John Kerry was running for president. And I can't remember what university he was speaking at, but there were some Republican students there at his, speech or whatever, and they disagreed with some of what he was saying. And it's a college campus. I mean, it's college kids. It is what it is. And they were not horrible hecklers, not like what's going on today. It was just kids having opinions, so to speak. It's not the same. I feel like there was more decorum back in the day than what's going on now. But anyway, John Kerry had the campus police throw this one guy down. I can't remember his name, but they tased him, and he's screaming because he's being tased, and he's the guy that yelled, "Don't tase me, bro," and then they tase him. And so while this college kid, this student is being tased, at a public event at college campus, John Kerry just continues to talk in that monotone voice, and he's not affected at all by what the student is suffering. Like he just kept talking in a monotone voice, and this guy is screaming because he's being tased by the police. And so, obviously, some people are not a good candidate to be president, because if you don't even have empathy for anyone, but even young people, that really says a lot that he didn't value that person's life whatsoever. And he didn't want anyone saying anything negative towards him or about him. And so obviously he doesn't value freedom of speech. And it is a problem, because whenever you have people that are running for office that don't value freedom of speech, this is what they do. They will even take down a college student, have them pinned to the ground, and have them tased. Now, is that very presidential? No. It's like some fat slob kid in grade school that's a spoiled, rotten brat. It's like someone that's like an only child that never has to deal with a difference of opinion and just doesn't have mannerisms towards other people, and doesn't understand that people are going to have different opinions about you or about the things that you believe in. And also, when you're on a college campus, of course, college kids are going to be different than the Senate or the Congress or whatever. But obviously, thank goodness he was never president. So just FYI, be aware that if someone does not value freedom of speech, but really just only values their freedom of speech, they don't really value they don't really value freedom at all. Sorry, my voice is getting dry and it's starting to crack. So, I wish more people were aware that whenever any of your freedoms are limited, technically all of them are at risk of being limited. That's the issue, and that's where I get concerned with things like that. But I will go ahead and end this podcast, and next time we will probably go to or talk about another labor union, and then also talk about a federal agency as well, and just continue to do a 2-for-1 special just to make sure that we're covering everything, and that we're getting back to the original purpose of the podcast, which is talking about labor unions and things of that nature. But again, these federal agencies, they do impact the private sector. And I'll say this in regards to the United States Secret Service, federal police here. There are dirty cops in every type of police force, but not every cop is a dirty cop. And the way that how to describe this, the way that you prevent dirty cops from becoming cops is you don't have bad cops in charge of your departments, because they kind of have this bros before hoes mentality. I hate that phrase, but it's kind of like a frat house. So we've talked about this in times past, and I can't stand this, what I'm about to describe. But one of the biggest problems, I think, with law enforcement, whether it's state, federal, local, county, sheriff, whatever the case may be, is that, if a cop, whether male or female, and they tend to be predominantly male just, because of the nature of the job is very masculine. If ever you have a cop that's a dirty cop and gets fired, unfortunately, for the most part, they get hired by another division. Or let's say, for example, you have a cop that gets fired from like a city police officer post. Usually what will happen is they will go work for a small town, still be a police officer, or maybe they will become a sheriff deputy or something. Here's the thing. If someone is a bad cop in the city, they're going to be a bad cop wherever they go. And you can't tell me that they don't know their criminal history or their history of like infractions or whatever, or that they've gotten in trouble. But a lot of the police force, whenever they're hiring these people, they look the other way, especially when someone has a history of not being a good person when it comes to protecting citizens. And instead of enforcing the law, they themselves break the law, and they make it seem like the power of the badge is more important than actually protecting human life. See, here's the thing. If they would just stop hiring those people and just always fire them when they do something bad, we would not have so many bad examples of dirty or bad cops or police brutality. Because there is no excuse for police brutality or being a dirty cop or a bad cop. There's no excuse. Because here's the thing. And typically, in order to become a police officer of any kind, technically, usually it's a very detailed background check. Very detailed. Like they have to interview you, they have to interview your family, your friends, like they usually do a very detailed background check. And see, here's the thing. Whenever your employment record from one police department gets transferred to another, they see everything that person has been written up on. So it's like, okay, these other police, I would say forces and departments, they see everything. So if they see everything, why are they still continuing to hire someone that is basically a bad apple? Well, the way they typically look at it is they view it just like these state employees of Colorado. They value their labor more than actually doing a good job. And they think that they are entitled to certain benefits that they actually are not entitled to. If you don't do a good job, you should be fired. If you break the law and or you hurt somebody, then you should be fired. Excuse my stomach, it's past dinner time, and I have not eaten, so pardon my stomach for growling. I'm probably thinking of a hamburger. But anyway, my point is this. It doesn't matter what kind of law enforcement we're talking about. All of them need to be good. But not all of them are good. And the reason why not all of them are good is because of the people that are in charge. Because someone had to hire that person. Someone had to say, yes, we will hire them and we will start paying their wages. Because for some stupid reason, cops are more loyal to each other than they are to citizens of the United States. And the problem with that is, it comes down to they think their labor is more important than everybody else's. So being that they think their labor is more important than everybody else's, they are willing to put a bad person in a position that they should never be in. Because they think this person is owed this job, this person is owed these benefits, this person is owed, union pension plans. They're not owed anything if they're hurting and harming people or if they're breaking the law. See, that's the problem with the good old boy system. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It makes you wonder, like these people that are in charge of these different departments, like what have they done? What have they done that has, violated the law? And, if they're looking the other way on this bad or dirty cop, where else are they looking the other way and not doing their due diligence and they're not being moral and they're not being a person of integrity? That's where this stuff gets murky. But the way that you help the waters become clear is you fire the bad people and keep the good people. Because, good people are not going to stay in a bad work environment. It doesn't matter whether it's a police force or a district attorney's office or maybe working for Apple or Dell, Amazon, whatever the case may be. People do not like working for bad people. And I'm not saying Microsoft and Dell are bad. I'm talking about like individual departments. It's just that, bad management is everywhere. And, me personally, I've noticed that the more powerful HR departments get, the more bad managers get away with so much stuff, because the more powerful an HR department gets, the more they scratch the back of certain managers and they cover up for them. And see, here's the thing, whenever they practice that, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, they are basically ensuring job security. Well, that is exactly what happens in different police forces and different law enforcement agencies. It is a problem. I don't like it. I'm not saying it's rampant. I'm just saying that if we're talking about it, then it is a problem. Like if I'm aware of it and I am in Oklahoma and I am in the Bible Belt, then I'm pretty sure it's probably everywhere. Because typically, Oklahoma doesn't hear about stuff, especially from the coast. It takes some time for stuff to really get here. And I'm not just talking about on the internet and the web and things like that, but I mean, it's just whenever there are trends that start on the coast, it typically takes a couple years for it to hit the center of the United States. I've noticed that over time. And unfortunately, there is a lot of corruption in Washington, D.C. So when President Trump, when he said his goal was to drain the swamp, this is what he was talking about. He was talking about bad people not being in charge anymore and holding them accountable for the stuff that they did, that they're doing, what they did and what they're doing, so that way they will not continue to do it in the future because they won't have a job anymore. You know, President Trump, there may be a lot of people that disliked him, but he did a lot of good for our country. Like, can you imagine if Biden had been president when COVID-19 hit? He can't even form a sentence. Like, I don't understand how anyone could vote for Biden. I just don't get it because he is so, unfortunately, mentally incompetent. And he wasn't always like that. It's just that he's gotten old and he's had a couple brain aneurysms and things of that nature. So, for sure, always pray for the health and vitality of our president. Doesn't matter whether they're Democrat, Republican, whatever the case may be. But here's the thing. Biden is a weak leader. He is. And it's because of his health. Like, I think he was more mentally sound when he was working with Obama. But even Obama made cracks about Joe Biden, that he's old, I guess forgetful. I think he called him Sleepy Joe or something. So maybe he was having mental problems back then. I don't mean psychological. I mean like the structural integrity of his brain. I think he's had 2 brain aneurysms and he's had a couple neurosurgeries to try and help stop that and correct it. So, you know, his judgment is very much impaired. So basically President Biden is just a puppet. He's just a puppet for Kamala Harris and for whoever else he appoints. Well, he didn't appoint Kamala Harris. She was elected. But I'm saying that basically President Biden is a puppet to whatever regime is taking over Washington, D.C. at this point in time. And that's very sad. Because I think Joe Biden, way back in the day, I think he really cared about the United States. And he actually probably had some good ideas when he was younger. It's just that, okay, when you have a couple brain aneurysms, you know, that stuff gets serious really quick. And here's the thing. We should not be having a president that can't even form a sentence. I mean, that's unbelievable. And there were so many more qualified Democrats on the stage at the Democratic National Convention, way more qualified than him. But yet, somehow he got elected. And I think one of the reasons why he got elected was because he's an easy pawn. He's easily manipulated. And I think that is so wrong to do that. So needless to say, please be careful who you vote for. Because, well, it just really matters. It extremely matters. Because we are the United States of America. We are a first world superpower. And we have a responsibility to be just that. And if you have an incompetent leader, it makes it very difficult to handle the things that are currently going on and then handle the things that pop up and then also, you know, have an international presence without looking incompetent. That's where it gets kind of tricky on that. But anyway, I will go ahead and end this podcast, but as usual, until next time, I pray that you're happy, healthy, and whole, that you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Thank you so much. God bless and bye-bye.